نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها النبي اتق الله ولا تطع الكافرين والمنافقين إن الله كان عليما حكيما. واتبع ما يوحى إليك من ربك إن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا. وتوكل على الله وكفى بالله وكيلا. ما جعل الله لرجل من قلبين في جوفه وما جعل أزواجكم اللائي تظاهرون منهن أمهاتكم وما جعل أدعياءكم أبناءكم ذلكم قولكم بأفواهكم والله يقول الحق وهو يهدي السبيل. ادعوهم لآبائهم هو أقسط عند الله فإن لم تعلموا آباءهم فإخوانكم في الدين ومواليكم وليس عليكم جناح فيما أخطأتم به ولكن ما تعمدت قلوبكم وكان الله غفورا رحيما. Respectful my friends, the verses that have been recited are the opening verses of Surah Ahzaab. And in Surah Ahzaab, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the status of Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam, the importance of honoring the role of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And there are also a few other very important masail that are mentioned in Surah Ahzaab. Along with that, there is the continuity of what was in Surah Sajda with regards to addressing the disbelievers as well. The opening verse, Allah wa la tudi'ul kafirina wal munafiqeen. O Nabi of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, O Nabi, fear Allah and do not follow the kuffar and the munafiqeen. Inna Allah kana aliman hakima. Undoubtedly Allah Ta'ala is ever the all-knowing, the wise. And he said, وَاتَّبِعْ مَا يُوحَى إِلَيْكَ مِنْ رَبِّكَ. Follow what has been revealed to you from your Rabb. إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرًا. Allah Ta'ala is ever informed about what you do. With regards to the purpose why these verses had been revealed, the Mufassireen have mentioned a couple of or three different incidents. According to one tafsir, when Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam migrated to Madinah al-Munawwara, at that time from the Yahud, it was the Banu Nazir, Banu Qurayza, Banu Qaynuqa. These were the well-known tribes of clans of the Yahud. From them, some of them, what they would do is that they would come to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and they would make themselves, or they would show themselves to have come into the fold of Islam, but in reality they had no iman. They are the munafiqeen. Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam would go out of his way to accommodate for them. Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam would do the ikram as well. Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam's motive was that these few handful, if they come in the fold of Islam, then it can help towards the da'wat of Islam. As the term word of mouth. So people themselves can then continue with the work of Nabuwat, of giving da'wat to others. So if there are few amongst the Yahud who come in the fold of Islam, they at least can give da'wat and call others to Islam as well. So for this, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would exert himself to accommodate for them. On that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this verse. That is one tafsir. The other tafsir is that after Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did do the migration, then Walid and Shayba bin Rabi'a, they came from Makkah to Madinah al-Munawwara, and they also then came to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and had put pressure on Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam should stop speaking ill of their idols. Can continue preaching Islam but do not speak ill of the idols. So they came and put this pressure upon Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the Yahud also then threatened Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that if you do not, then we will kill you as well. Upon that, Allah Ta'ala revealed this verse. The so-called tafsir of Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala. And a third incident narrated is that Abu Sufyan and Ikramah ibn Abi Jahl, they came to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and they said to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that if you want to, you continue preaching how you want to, but along with that, if you can just make mention and say that there is no harm in worshipping the idols as well, as the idols will also intercede on the day of Qiyamah. So believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the idols are fine, the idols will also intercede for you on the day of Qiyamah. This is the demand that they had made to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Their coming to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, when there was the peace treaty. When this was mentioned, that's when the Sahaba became greatly angry, and the Sahaba as well. To the extent that the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala were ready to attack them as well. That's when Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to them, no, we cannot attack them as we are under treaty with them. We have signed the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. Hence there is nothing we can do and we shouldn't just leave it with them. So these are three incidents that we mentioned in the tafsir. Although all three are different, but they're very similar. And as has been mentioned previously, it is not necessary that there has to be just one specific incident as the purpose of why the verse has been revealed. It can be accumulation, that all these events occurred, and due to the occurrences of these, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this verse. That Ya ayyuhan nabiyyu ittaqillah. O Nabi, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and wala tuti'il kafirin wal munafiqeen. And do not follow the instructions of those who don't believe in the munafiqeen. So if they are telling you to leave preaching Islam, do not obey them. If they are saying to you, preach Islam but allow the idol worshipping as well, then do not obey them. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ittaqillah, fi Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Nabi of Allah, there is no question that they do not fear Allah ta'ala. But here it means fear Allah ta'ala not just on this occasion, but at all times, meaning maintain this at all times. That do not bend your back towards those who are the munafiqeen and those who are planning against you. And also as is the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Qur'an, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam directly, but the message in actual fact is towards the ummah. It was Jannah. That when Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is being told ittaqillaha, then all the more the ummah has to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And why Allah ta'ala is saying ittaqillah? On that basis of actually addressing the believers themselves, that when they had then said to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, let us attack them and kill Abu Sufyan and them for making this request also, or having the courage to come and mention this. So on that Allah ta'ala is saying ittaqillah, that there is a treaty that has been prepared and treaty that has been acknowledged and signed. So maintain that. and do not go against that. So going against that is also going against the instructions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna Allah kana aliman hakima. Undoubtedly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ever the all-knowing and the wise. And instead of following the munafiqeen and those who do not believe, Allah Ta'ala says, instead, وَاتَّبِعْ مَا يُوحَى إِلَيْكَ مِنْ رَبِّكَ. Instead of following the instructions, follow what has been revealed to you from your Rabb. Because إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرًا. Allah Ta'ala is ever informed about what you do. So nothing you can do against the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Nabi of Allah only follows that which is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, this is addressed to us all as well, that when the Nabi of Allah is being instructed that he should follow nothing but the wahi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the same applies to us in all aspects of our lives, that we should only be following the wahi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. And in the process, Allah Ta'ala says, rely only on Allah, meaning for assistance. In these matters, rely solely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ وَكِيلًا. Allah Ta'ala is sufficient as a helper, that with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala you need no one else. وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ وَكِيلًا. Allah Ta'ala is sufficient as a helper for every person. So when nobody exists as well, Allah Ta'ala still exists. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sufficient for every person. This was with regards to these opening verses of Surah Ahzaab. The next two verses that have been recited in these verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes mention with regards to three misconceptions, three thoughts and customs during the days of Jahiliyyah. One was that the mushrikeen, they would say and they claim that the person who was intelligent because he possessed two hearts. He was intelligent because he possessed two hearts. This was what their thoughts were of a person who they claimed had two hearts because of his intelligence. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rejects that claim. The being intelligent doesn't mean it is because you have two hearts. This is against logic as well. Nobody has two hearts. And the other is with regards to their belief with regards to the practice of zihar. Zihar from zahr, and zahr means back. Zihar is that when a person would give a similarity between his wife to his mother. And specifically who say, Anti ka zahri ummi, that you are like the back of my mother. Meaning, the whole point of that was to make his wife haram upon him. So that just the way my mother is haram, my wife becomes haram. This is what the practice was. That in order to make the wife haram, they would ascribe her or describe her to being their mother. And anyone who do so, they would believe now that the wife has become totally haram upon them, period. That was another belief and practice of theirs. The third, the practice and the belief was with regards to foster children. That if somebody had adopted a child or would foster a child, then they would regard that child to be a blood child. So all the rulings with regards to a blood child would apply there. So that means that that blood child, that this foster child will also become a mahram, in other words. So there would be no difference at all between an actual child, blood child, and a child that has been fostered. These were three customs which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here. With regard to the first of the heart, Allah Ta'ala just mentions it, but Allah Ta'ala doesn't go into much detail. Because this has something not to do with a custom and a norm. It was just an idea or fallacy that they had. And Allah Ta'ala eradicates that because that is totally against logic. With regards to the two rulings, Allah Ta'ala with regards to the adoption part mentions it specifically here and elsewhere as well. And with regards to zihar and the ruling of zihar, that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala mentions it in detail in Surah Mujadala. So Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says that مَا جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لِرَجُلٍ مِّنْ قَلْبَيْنِ فِي جَوْفِهِ. That Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has not placed two hearts within any man's chest. So nobody has two hearts whatsoever. Person has only one heart. That is what Allah Ta'ala mentions. And that is as far as Allah Ta'ala doesn't go in further detail to it, because this is something which scientifically as well, it is something that is established, and everybody knows that as well, that every person has two hearts. And not that if a person is more intelligent, they have two hearts. وَمَا جَعَلَ أَزْوَاجُكُمُ اللَّائِي تُظَاهِرُونَ مِنْهُنَّ أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ. And Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says, nor has He made your wives with whom you practice zihar your mothers. So by considering the wife to be your mother, by just saying, oh mother, or you are like my mother or so, that does not make them haram upon you. So here Allah Ta'ala just addresses it in such a manner. As I mentioned to you, Allah Ta'ala in Surah Mujadala mentions it in more detail, that there is the kafara of zihar. When that kafara of zihar is carried out, then the wife becomes halal again. Until then, yes, she is haram, but she is not haram, period. As the mushrikeen of Makkah, as they would ascribe and as they would practice. Then in a little more detail, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala mentions that وَمَا جَعَلَ أَدْعِيَاءَكُمْ أَبْنَاءَكُمْ. And Allah has not made أَدْعِيَاءَكُمْ, your adopted sons, أَبْنَاءَكُمْ, your actual sons. Ad'iyaakum is meaning the one that you make dawah of, the one that you claim and you say that this is my son. The ad'iyaakum is of either how we have in our times, whether it is through adoption or whether it is through foster care. In the past, it would be just a case of a person verbally saying that I take you as my son. Or where you would have within families that a child he grows up at another person's family, for example, with them. And they take them and regard that, look, he's like my child. So they just say it with their tongue that this is like, he's my child or he's like my child. So that was something which was very common. So Allah Ta'ala says that Allah Ta'ala has not made your adopted sons your own sons. ذَلِكُمْ قَوْلُكُمْ بِأَفْوَاهِكُمْ. This, meaning referring to them as your own sons, is what? It is merely ذَلِكُمْ قَوْلُكُمْ. It is merely a statement بِأَفْوَاهِكُمْ from your lips. وَاللَّهُ يَقُولُ الْحَقِّ. Allah Ta'ala speaks the truth only, وَهُوَ يَهْدِي السَّبِيلِ, and He guides towards a straight path. So referring them to your own son, even if you give them your own name as well, it doesn't change the fact that they actually have a different father. Their father, you are still not their father. Instead, ud'uhum li'abaihim. Allah says, call them by their names, meaning of their fathers. And this is huwa aqsatu inda Allah. This is more just in the sight of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And if you do not know, فَإِلَّمْ تَعْلَمُوا أَبَاهُمْ, if you do not know who their fathers are, فَإِخْوَانُكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ وَمَوَالِيكُمْ, then they are your brothers indeed, and your freed slaves. Meaning they are your mawali or your friends. So what is the ruling here? Allah Ta'ala is mentioning that just merely by adopting somebody does not make them your actual son. So in the past, this is what would happen. Just by adopting somebody, they would become their son in a form that they would even inherit from them. If they were other females, then they would become their mahram for them. So all the rulings of and the status of an actual blood son would be given to such an adopted son as well. And Allah Ta'ala says this is incorrect, this is not justice. because he isn't your son. And not only that, but they would be also given the name as well. Just the way Sayyidina Zayd bin Haritha radiallahu ta'ala, who Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala had adopted, who as a very young age was taken as a slave and was gifted to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam by Sayyidina Khadija. Sayyidina Zayd bin Haritha radiallahu ta'ala lived with Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then eventually his uncle, they found out where he is. They were in pursuit looking out for him. And they found him to be in Medina Munawwara. And when they came with his father searching for him, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was willing to hand him over to them. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, look, Zayd has the choice. Whatever his decision is, if he desires to go with you, then he can return with you. I'm not going to keep him with me. He had been freed by Nabi Kareem sallallahu as it is. But since Zayd bin Haritha radiallahu ta'ala an himself decided to stay with Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Seeing his attachment to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and how Nabi Kareem sallallahu looked after him as well, his father was pleased and happy with him staying with Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now with regards to Zayd, Sayyidina Ibn Abbas sallallahu ta'ala mentioned that prior to this verse being revealed, people would call him Zayd bin Muhammad. He was known as Zayd bin Muhammad. Because this is what the trend was at the time. They would automatically be given the name of those who adopt them or foster them. And when this verse was revealed, that's when that changed. And it was now unlawful and impermissible to do so. That's why in Deen as well, Nabi Kareem mentions from those things that will send a person to Jahannam is where a person ascribes himself to somebody else besides his own father. So a person should be ascribed only to his own lineage, his own father, and not ascribe himself to another person, that I am the son of so-and-so. Whether it is just to, as a lie, to make the lie, I am the son of this rich man or that person or so, or whether a person does it for the sake of lineage purposes, whatever it may be, it is something that is not permissible. So either it is a lie or for actual fact wherein a person is living with somebody and because he is living in his home now he just takes, you're like my child, so you're my child, so he takes his name. This is something that is not allowed and not permissible whatsoever. We may have similar as well, wherein within families there might be a child that has become orphaned at a young age. So other family members take them in their care and they look after them, which is something that they should do and something great worthy of reward as well. But that doesn't make them their own child. And because they grow up within that home, they do not by default take that family name or inherit from them. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here. That this which you have done so is what? ذَلِكُمْ قَوْلُكُمْ بِأَفْوَاهِكُمْ. And one of the harms of this is, which Allah Ta'ala will mention later in this surah as well, is that when Zayd bin Haritha, who got married to Sayyidina Zainab bint Jahsh radiyallahu ta'ala anha, however things did not work out between them. And when later, eventually Sayyidina Zayd bin Haritha divorced Sayyidina Zainab bint Jahsh, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam married her. And when Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam got married to her, that's when the Munafiqeen and Mushrikeen and the rest, they all jumped on a bandwagon. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has got married to his own daughter-in-law. Whereas she wasn't his daughter-in-law because Zayd himself was not Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's son. There was no blood relationship there anyway. So when there was no blood relationship, there was not a case at all of marrying the daughter-in-law anyway. But these are the type of things that people believed in, and they scorned Nabi Kareem sallallahu regarding this. But that was something which was false, because the haqiqat, the reality is, there wasn't that relationship there as it is. So Allah Ta'ala says that ذَلِكُمْ قُولُكُمْ بِأَفْوَاهِكُمْ. This is just by you saying by your son, by your tongue, that you are my son. وَاللَّهُ يَقُولُ الْحَقِّ. Allah Ta'ala speaks the truth. And the truth is what? That person is not their child, their father is somebody else as it is, and that will remain the father at all times. وَهُوَ يَهْدِي السَّبِيلَ. And Allah Ta'ala guides to the straight path. So instead Allah Ta'ala says, look, ud'uhum li'aba'ihim. Call them by their father's name. So whatever their actual identity is, which actually shows us here as well, that where there is adoption of children in a young age, when they do become of understanding, it should be told to them who their fathers are. And not that it is just kept concealed to them, and they just take the name of whoever's adopted them, and they grow up the entire life thinking, these are my real parents. But that isn't the case, because everything's there. There is no mahramiyat there at all. So it is important that their name should not be changed in the adoption or fostering. Their actual identity and whatever their family name is, that should remain there. So ud'uhum li'abaihim, and that is what huwa aqsatu inda Allah. Allah Ta'ala says this is more just in the sight of your Rabb. And then Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says that فَإِن لَمْ تَعْلَمُوا آبَاءَهُمْ, if you do not know who their fathers are, it might be a case of you do not know who their father is, their identity is, then it's a case of, look, who are they then? Then you can't say, look, you don't know who your father is anyways, I'm your father now, so just take my name. No. Then فَإِخْوَانُكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ وَمَوَالِيكُمْ, then take them as what? Then they are your brothers in deen, and وَمَوَالِيكُمْ, and they are your friends. Meaning then too, they will not become your actual sons at all. That should not be an excuse that, look, okay, we would have given him or her the actual father's name, but because we do not know who it is, then what now do we do? Then take them to be what? That they are your deen and Islamic friends, your brothers in deen and your friends. And it is for this reason we find that example of how Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made amal upon this as well. That during the conquest of Mecca, when Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was departing from there, the daughter of Sayyidina Hamza, she came running to Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saying, oh uncle. Uncle, because although she is the cousin of Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but because there's difference in age, so there by default automatically people would call those who are elder than them uncle. When she came running in this way, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala took hold of her, and she said to Sayyidina Fatima, you take hold of her and you take guardianship over her. That we'll take her with to Badr Munawwar and we'll look after her. And he said to Sayyidina Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha that you take her because she is the daughter of your uncle. The daughter of your uncle, Sayyidina Hamza. So because of that reason, and why you say uncle is that although Sayyidina Hamza is actually the uncle of Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but they were very similar in age. In Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Hamza, they were breastfed as well in childhood by the same lady. So that reason they were, although they were the uncle of Islam, they were also milk brothers as well. So he said, take the child, she's your uncle's daughter. Sayyidina Zayd radiallahu ta'ala said that no, I shall take the child because she is the child of my brother. Sayyidina Ja'far radiallahu ta'ala said that no, it is my uncle, I have rights over her, and her aunt is also married to me. So in this way, all three of them wanted to take custody of the daughter of Sayyidina Hamza radiallahu ta'ala. It just shows how they were in the past. If it was now, if you take over, you're closer to them, you're closer. Nobody want to take help anybody at all for that matter. And they excuse not to pass it on to somebody else. Yeah, each one wanted that, no, we look after her. When this occurred, Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did what? Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave her over to Sayyidina Ja'far. But in between, before that, Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, in order to console all of them, Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said to Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala that anta minni wa ana minka. That, oh Ali, you are from me and I am from you. So not to hurt the heart of Ali radiallahu ta'ala, that you are from me and I am from you, but you will not get the daughter, Hamza's daughter. Then he said to Sayyidina Ja'far radiallahu ta'ala that ashbahta khalqi wa khulqi. With regards to Ja'far, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that you are very similar to me in appearance as well as akhlaq. Your character and appearance is very similar to me. But Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave it to Sayyidina Ja'far. Why? Because Sayyidina Ja'far's wife, Asma bint Umays radiallahu ta'ala anha, she was what? She was a maternal aunt of this child. And that's what Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, al-khalatu bi manzilatil that the khala meaning your maternal aunt is in the position of the mother, is like the mother. So for that reason, Nabi Kareem gave the child over to Sayyidina Ja'far in his household, not because of Sayyidina Ja'far, but because of his wife. Asma bint Umays, because of her, he gave that, knowing that from all who look after her the most, the khala will have more shafqat and love and affection towards her, because it is her own sister's child. So you'll expect that the khala is going to be the position, and she takes the position of the mother. And then Nabi Sallallahu said to Sayyidina Zayd, who also wanted to take guardianship over as well, he said, Anta akhi wa mawlaya. Anta akhi, you are my brother, and you are our mawla, my friend. Exactly as how Allah Ta'ala mentions here in the Quran as well, that if you do not know who they is, then they are fi ikhwanukum fi dini wa mawalikum. And that is what Nabi Kareem said, that you are my brother indeed, and you are my friend. Nabi Sallallahu knew who Zayd bin Harith after all, but Nabi Kareem describes him in such a manner. And Nabi Sallallahu said this to all of them in order for them to feel good about it, that he's not giving preference to any over the other, but just merely on the basis of the khala, he gave it over. This is just example of ikhwanukum fi dini wa mawalikum. And then Allah Ta'ala says at the same time, وَلَيْسَ عَلَيْكُمْ جُنَاحٌ فِيمَا أَخْطَأْتُمْ بِهِ وَلَكِنْ مَا تَعَمَّدَ قُلُوبُكُمْ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. There shall be no blame on you with regard to the errors you make. Meaning that such as unintentionally referring to the adopted child as your own. That if you had done that, Allah Ta'ala will not take you to account for that. But only for what your hearts purposely intend. Meaning if you purposely violate the command of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, then that is a different matter. Then it is a different matter. So if it is done unintentionally, you made an error at that time, then Allah Ta'ala says, then there's no harm in فيما أخطأتم به. رفع أمتي الخطأ والنسيان وما أكرهتم به. And it mentions khata and nisyan, that which is done by error and mistake, not deliberately, that is forgiven by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So if you have done so in the past, Allah will forgive you for that. Now you know what the ruling is, not do it again. But if you do it, وَلَكِنْ مَا تَعَمَّدَ قُلُوبُكُمْ deliberately, then that shouldn't be the case. Because وَكَانَ اللَّهُ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. Why if you done it unintentionally, it's forgiven, because Allah Ta'ala is most forgiving, and He is the most merciful. So forgiveness acts done in error of forgetfulness. And that is how we do things deliberately. But a sin is something that a person should not be doing it deliberately. As Allah Ta'ala mentioned this. And this is the ruling here. The other ruling that comes about is that as you have, people may call somebody their son out of compassion. Is this allowed or not? Is this allowed or not? The ulama have mentioned that although it is not impermissible, meaning it does not fall under the same category as what Allah Ta'ala is mentioning here, because you're not regarding that person to be your son, and you don't ascribe him towards you in this way, you just think out of shafqat. But because it is still ascribing the child towards you who isn't, and that is something that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is admonishing here, hence it is still something disliked that you call somebody as you do beta. Calling somebody, even after shafqat, beta or beti, who isn't your beta or beti, who isn't your son or daughter, that is still something that is disliked. And why, although it is not impermissible, but it is disliked because, and the dislike is because it has a similarity with what Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has prohibited here. Although that which is prohibited here is specifically where you now ascribe them to be your own child, and you're not doing that here. So for that reason, there are those who allow it, that is not impermissible. So you can't say that they're both the same things and regard it to be impermissible, but there is that dislike of it, because after all, that person who you are calling son or daughter is in actual fact not your son or daughter. Allah Ta'ala, further next, Allah Ta'ala mentions with regards to the status of Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Allah Ta'ala grants all the understanding. With regards to zihar, in Surah Mujadala there will be more detail of it. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين